Recording.
Oh, good.
That's just crazy to me.
Bananas.
That's crazy to me, Mrs. Ryan.
It is bananas.
How are you with that opening? With that news in general?
Great with that news and that opening.
How about just looking over there?
I can't. It makes me so like agitated.
Agitated? Oh, no. Here, you stay there. I'm going to move some cameras real quick. That's how professional we are.
Oh, jeez. I'm so embarrassed.
That's all right. There you go.
Jeez.
All right. Hello there.
Hello.
Let's see. Today is Wednesday, June 20th, 2018. I am here with Mrs. Ryan. Carol Leifer is in our house. She will be out here in just a few moments. Let's deal with whatever we have to deal with so that we can make that happen.
Great.
How does that work?
That goes quickly.
Cool.
I think we have a couple things, yeah?
Yeah. You know what? We finally did the weekend video, and that's pretty quick. So want to just roll that?
Yes, please.
All right. Let's see if Carol gets this joke. Roll it, Hal. What was he chasing? Did you see?
I didn't see. How long do you think they'll last?
This one I've read.
There you go. Abrupt ending, just like the weekend.
Perfect. So much fun, though, just like the weekend.
It was. That Dukes of Hazzard car is so polarizing. It gets me every time because my nostalgic youth has such a fondness for it because I was so into the show that I realized that those guys were not racist. They were all about like helping and the underprivileged and the underdog. But meanwhile, goddamn flag is on the roof, and it's so hard to love still,
I loved watching it by itself in the parking lot.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you for not prejudging it.
No, a bunch of my friends reached out, actually, I think on Facebook, and had similar views to you. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better. I appreciate it. Let's get ready for the news,
Dun,
Mrs.
dun,
Ryan?
dun, dun, dun.
What's going on?
This has been added. Okay. There go those drug companies inventing new diseases again.
Okay,
Thanks,
what do we got?
Forbes. Well, here it's kind of what I say, except I never articulate it succinctly. It's just like there's a bunch of weird shit that humans deal with as they get older, and no one knows how to call them what they are, and it just you get taken advantage of it. Like drug companies are like, yeah, you need this. And it's like you need this pill to combat that pill to whatever.
Yeah,
There's
a lot going on, and people don't know who to listen to. Everyone's telling them they should listen to me, and I think people just aren't sure what to do right now. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I concur.
More than in a while. It feels anyway.
I totally agree, and that's why I wanted to make this a point to tell people, like, if you're feeling shitty, just sit with it for a minute and understand yourself what it is before you go to a doctor or a specialist and start telling them stuff, because it falls, especially now that everything's like a check marks in a box and a whatever, diagnostically, you could accidentally fall into the wrong thing, and there's a lot of confusion out there.
That's pretty interesting. I understand. I love that you chose that one. It's hard to wrap it up. That's for sure.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Look at it. Spend some time up here. That's the only thing I can say. You really are the only one with the answers, and once you realize that, you will be fine, and that goes for everyone. Everyone is you, in my opinion.
I agree.
What do you got next?
The next one is Anthony Bourdain and the silent epidemic of male suicide.
Oh.
Which, here's the deal. It's sad, and it totally bums me out, except that it's not just a male thing. I'm glad they're bringing attention to it, but like back in 2009, there was a whole article in People magazine about like youth suicides.
Well,
by
the day
hanging.
before it was Kate Spade, too. I mean, so I feel like that
Yeah.
almost evens it out as far as celebrity suicides that week.
That week it was even.
Yeah, I agree. Why are they putting a male spin on it? I mean, is something different about,
I think that it's a cultural thing, and they're like, uh-oh, dudes are offing themselves publicly, and it's becoming something that everyone's looking at.
all the guilty men, all the guilty consciences.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilty consciences.
I mean, I don't know if Anthony Bourdain had that situation going on. I don't know if we
No,
could
he
draw
was
that
really,
line, but
really outspoken against it.
but it's very understandable that you would that someone might draw that line. I mean, there's a shit ton going on out there, man. It's a very tumultuous time. We're going through some sort of changeover for sure.
It's tumultuous, and people that haven't experienced things for themselves tend to project on other people. So if it's a dude that something happens to, they're like, oh, what's wrong with men? And it's like, no, this has been happening.
Yeah. There's a lot of regurgitation, too, don't you think? A lot of people, like a lot of this stuff just gets perpetuated when no one actually knows what the hell they're talking about.
It's going to stop being perpetuated when we acknowledge what shit actually is. So that's my thing.
I love it.
Cool.
Please go on. 'Cause there's a story I didn't put in here, but it may connect with yours. So.
Ooh. Well, scientists use caffeine to control genes and treat diabetic mice with coffee. Was that
Seriously?
Yeah.
That sounds very interesting. I'd like to follow that story as it unfolds.
Me also. It's out of Switzerland, and it's fascinating.
Okay. All right, well, we'll check back in on that one.
I'll follow up. Similarly speaking, some rivers are so drug polluted.
Drug polluted?
Drug polluted that eels are high on cocaine.
Whoa. Okay. All right. This is interesting. I read a story about a month ago, maybe, about the what's the bay up in San Francisco where they have the aquarium.
I have no idea.
Well, up there. Morro Bay, maybe. Anyway, that bay is
No memory.
is toxic with opiates because of the runoff, because of people who have we as people collectively have been taking enough opiates and peeing into enough toilets and runoff that it goes into and then now the fish are testing positive for opiates.
That's insane. The headline was cocaine, but then it went into like antidepressants and other shit they're finding in the ocean.
We don't get to make stuff and have it never go anywhere. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
Nobody really thinks about the end game. As long as they're not here, it's not really a problem.
Well, that was my thing with the Hawaii sunscreen thing. It's like, I'm stoked that you're not burning because you're choosing to be outside during the hottest, most like sun direct time of ever. But like, just maybe choose your hours differently and don't lather yourself with sunscreen every 3 seconds like it's going into the ocean, coral reefs and shit.
The irony is that when we stopped using sunscreen and all that stuff is when we stopped burning and started tanning, etc. So, a lot of chemical stuff there.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I have one last one.
All right.
A man asked his girlfriend to live tweet text him updates
For the World Cup.
World Cup. She like live tweeted it.
But it was all sorts of stuff like so-and-so fell down. I think he looks like his knee hurts. Oh, I bet that's uncomfortable. Like stuff like that.
The headline was like, he may have got more than he bargained for. And like, all I could think of was like, every time you're like, write down the grocery list, like I make notes and you're like, what do you want?
I love that.
Hilarious.
All right. Well, real quick, then I'll just add to it. Star Wars story films, all on hold. All of them. Now, this doesn't affect me, but we had a conversation the other day about how I just don't get Star Wars. I have nothing against it. I love my friends who do. Look at the stuff I'm into. So it's not about like, I don't want to be a nerd. It never dawned on me. So this is not news that affects me, but I bet a lot of people are really, really upset.
Why is it on hold?
Well, apparently because of the opening weekend of Solo.
Oh, was it not?
Was so low. It was written on the fly, folks.
Oh, wow.
Didn't want Carol to think I was stockpiling that one, waiting to use it in front of her. How about couple discovers that hospital gave them the wrong baby?
I did read that headline.
It's
happened
bullshit.
For years.
Hang on, but it's bullshit too. They were still in the hospital, and they didn't figure out crap. The hospital came in and said, "Oh, sorry, we made a mistake." They were still in the hospital.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those. Of course, it is definitely a mistake, but I bet this happens a million times a day.
It happens. Here's the deal. I've read People magazine since I was way too young to be reading it, and there's been those stories forever about like the kids that are like 5 that are like, I don't look like my family. Like, yeah.
That's what People magazine used to cover?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Deep hitting news.
All right. Speaking of stuff that we make and it has to go somewhere, China. I would like to talk about China for a second. We don't get political at all. However, this is just a side effect of what's been going on. China's plastic ban will leave this is why I brought it up, 111 million tons of our garbage without a home. Our garbage without a home. That's right. Since 1988, we've been sending our garbage to China.
And we're like, oh, I wonder why they don't like us.
Yeah, so now they have they're doing bans on what they'll import. There's plastic import taxes and everything else because of all this other stuff. So now we're going to have to find some other place to put our trash. How about that?
All right, well, happy 111, but that's insanity. What the hell? What have we been doing? Like, that's mind-blowing to me.
I don't know. I would say an equally large problem, although certainly on the other side of the scale. And I don't know if it's a problem, but it's something that I consider a problem. Discovery Channel has a This Is AI special starting tomorrow. I believe it's a miniseries starting tomorrow, June 21st, 9 p.m. on Discovery. This is
Sounds
AI.
like how they do Shark Week.
It could be. I don't know. I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, totally. I'm curious where they go with it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we'll have to tune in.
All right. Well, that's the news. That's been what's going on. You are the best. All right. Let's take a quick little break, and when we come back, Carol Leifer will be here. back. We are back, and Carol Leifer is here.
Hello.
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 Well, you knew that I had to do a podcast where you are so kind to have devoted an entire podcast to me. That was amazing. It blew my mind.
Really?
Absolutely. It doesn't happen ever.
It should
surprises
happen all
me.
the time.
Agreed.
FYI.
Thank you.
But,
and I said,
thanks.
I have to do Meet the Ryans and do the show.
Well, it means the world, and really, sincerely, thank you.
My pleasure. And I had to clear up some because it was interesting to watch because there were some not correct facts.
Ah. Oh.
Will you clear them up?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
happy to.
Okay, I
It'd
figured.
be funny if you just perpetuated them from here, and we just change your
Right,
whole
right.
story.
No, that's
Yes.
like my big. I hate perpetuating bad facts, so I'm so
I mentioned
happy that
you
you're
used
here
to be a
clarify.
publicist in this whole thing.
It was a nightmare trying to correct facts and keep stories straight, so I'm so happy to be corrected.
Yeah. Because the thing I remember is that I think you thought, Jay, that David Letterman saw me at the Comedy Store.
I put that together, and that's incorrect,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
based
'cause
on
I-
you, based on this
I
line.
started in New York.
You were
Oh, no
at the New
kidding.
York Comedy Clubs.
Okay.
Comic Strip Live? Were you did you
Comic
play
Strip?
there?
Yeah, when it was just known as the Comic Strip.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I used to watch Comic Strip Live, the
Oh, yeah.
show.
My bad.
right.
You did too, yeah.
Yeah. I went to school in Binghamton, New York.
Yeah, I know. I how the hell did you end up there? SUNY,
Well,
right?
SUNY, yeah. My father was like, you can go to any school you want as long as it's a state school. So my sister had gone there, and I had visited her and liked it. So I was in a theater group with Paul Reiser, who told me about these comedy clubs that were actually springing up then. We're going back to 1977. And he said, anybody can get on and do 5 minutes, and that's audition night. And I always liked that about stand-up, and it's what I still love about stand-up. I always wanted to perform, but to be an actor, it's such a circuitous route, and an agent, like, you're a college junior, and the next thing you know, that night, you're a comedian, and you just go up. And that's where I started. And the MC the night that I went to the Comic Strip with Paul Reiser, that we passed the audition, the MC was Jerry Seinfeld. And when I went on at another club called Catch Rising Star, Larry David was the MC. So I go back to my first day of show business with those guys. And the other,
That's incredible.
yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, does everyone know that? I mean, that's a fantastic Hollywood story.
I tell people all the time.
It's in your book, I think, but it's
Maybe.
like part of such a big, awesome story,
Yeah.
which is your
Are you
life. and
talking
stuff.
about this book?
I am
Here
talking
it
about
is.
that book.
Yes, because you guys talk about show business so much, and my book is so full of anybody who's aspiring to be performing, and I know your audience is a lot of people like that. It's all contained
Yeah,
in here.
it's all in
Every
there.
answer to every burning question.
Totally.
Now, I love the Broadway show that title is, I'm assuming, based on.
Yes.
Did you love the show as well? Is there any tie-in at all? Even the
Of
artwork
how
is
to
similar
succeed
in the
business
same
without
time
really
frame.
trying. You know what? I liked the show. It's so funny that I just was at the Gelsons on Van Nuys, and Robert Morse was
Come
there.
on.
I swear to God.
Mad Men from Mad Men, the old guy from Mad Men.
Oh,
Yeah, but he was the star of How to Succeed.
cool.
The
He was
Broadway
a young
show.
boy, yeah.
And of course, I went over to him, because I'll go over to anybody. And I said, I'm a hugest fan, and blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting, because you never know with famous people how they're going to be or what they're going to ask. And I was like, I'm such a huge fan for so long. He was like, where do you know me from? So, some of you can
good
get
question.
caught. And I said, How to Succeed, come on. And he was like, okay. And
Versus Mad Men. I've loved you for years on
and
Mad Men.
I said Mad Men too, but once I said How to Succeed, he was like,
Just
okay.
at the
Just to hear that
foundation
voice.
of actual fandom of like, I actually know you. I'm not just a fly-by-night
right.
Well, the
Little bit of
movie's
a
old
pop
too. I
quiz.
mean, it's not recent, right? It was at least early '60s, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
Long
stuff.
time
All right, I
ago.
was just curious because
Yeah.
I asked her the same thing and she wasn't sure. Said it wasn't covered in the book.
Right.
So, love it.
The reason I wrote it is because I have been around for so long and still working and still doing my thing,
Yeah.
and I feel like I know a lot of stuff that I want to let people know, so they can have a long career too. If you're not maybe a household name, but working and always doing.
Your book to back that up and agree. Like, it reminds me of a different version, and I'll say female, but it's not gender specific. It's just like life in a world. Similar to how Bernie Brillstein talked to people when he wrote his book.
Loved Bernie Brillstein's book. That's another book that you should get after you purchase this book. I also want to say that I'm not normally this dressed up, but I came from a speaking engagement that I had. It was at a private home for the Jewish Federation, and they have a series of speakers, and I like to do, I do stand-up, but I love doing speaking engagements because it's a little more relaxed and not as kapow, joke, a little more conversational.
So you're really boring and maudlin during those.
Yes, it's it's a big downer. So please book me for your next speaking engagement.
We'll have to get you after that engagement every time.
Yes. Yes.
So we keep the tone the same.
Right.
It means a lot, and I think that you would maybe be able to add to the show that I want to do, which is Shabbat Shalom, which is my maiden name. And I worked out in this business.
Wait, what's your maiden name?
Shabbat.
You're kidding me.
Chabot.
Yeah.
Like French
Shabbat.
Canadian.
Interesting.
But it's
So it should be Chabot or Chabot.
Oh, okay.
The family
How
decided
did you say it?
Shabbat.
They said Shabbat?
my family says Shabbat. My uncle's wife says Chabot. There's a big divide over it in my family, and I just said see you later, and I
Shabbat,
picked
look
a new
at
name.
that. When you say it like that, well, now you say Ryan. Right?
Yeah.
But when you used to say it to people, go, oh, like Shabbat Shalom?
Agents' assistants would literally call me on Fridays to say Shabbat Shalom or Happy Shabbat, whatever.
Wow.
And it was their way in. This business is crazy. It is what it is. I think it's really
Right,
different. And you
right.
talk a lot about that in your book, though, in a very
Yes.
beautiful way, because beautiful, awesome things come
Right.
out of people being awkward and weird.
Yeah.
Thank God I am a walking example of that, thankfully.
You see, when I watch your show, and I do enjoy your show, I
Carol.
do. I thought you were on like I was thinking, why is Jay like
He's
not
so preoccupied.
interacting?
He's so rude.
Yeah, I didn't realize he's doing camera angles. He's switching while we're talking.
The secret is I'm Hal, too.
running the show.
I don't want to tell anybody.
Okay.
Roll it, Hal.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you where you got that great Life magazine Woody Allen cover. That's pretty great.
Thanks. That was in Matthew Perry's office, his character's office, on the Aaron Sorkin show, Studio 60 on the
Really?
Sunset Strip. Yeah.
So how did you get it?
I loved it. I loved it, so I found it.
Amazing.
And you had it blown
This
up.
is my thing.
Wow. Yes. I see it is.
Not sure if you've met my nerd husband.
Yeah, I'm a
It
nerd.
goes pretty far
That's
back.
all right.
But have people talked about this? What's your what do the Ryans do when you're not doing this?
Well, it's almost we kind of almost have to back up to find out like what the Ryans used to do.
Okay.
I was a producer. She was a publicist.
Right.
Nicole got diagnosed with MS. That didn't really seem to mean much to us at the time. A couple years went by. Started to notice things here and there. I got sick at about the same time. Luckily, I'm fine, but we weren't sure for a while there. We thought it might actually like go really, really bad.
Okay. What were you sick with?
I'll tell you off the air because
All right.
they still really never got
Okay.
a true answer, so I don't want to say something that's not true.
Okay.
There was a whole lot of rigmarole that made me lose faith in the medical system, and I haven't been back since. I've gone holistic, and I've gone into meditation and a million other things that I have found work for me
Great. We can
very
talk
well.
about
They've
meditation,
balanced me
yeah.
as a person in life. That I just wish I had all that a long time sooner, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
So with all of that,
Yeah, I would never know that you are dealing with
Really?
MS. I would never in a million years know that.
That's a weird compliment. Thank you. I'll take that. I watch myself in these videos when I'm walking around, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't look right. But then I'm like, it actually looks normal. And then I'm like, no wonder I'm so mad, because like I know the struggle of every step that I'm like, okay, make your right foot go here, make your left foot go here.
Wow.
And so I see that no one else gives a shit, because why would they? So that's my own thing.
even if
But
they
thanks for noticing.
Yeah, no, I really, it was a surprise to me. But, then you carry it with a lot of grace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I knew you. I looked this up because I wasn't sure. I'm like, when would I have worked with you? I know it was some point, and it was in 2005 when Rock hosted the Oscars. Didn't you write with him
Yes.
for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I
so
did. So you were there.
I was around. I was that publicist that no one wants publicists around. I understand that now. because most of us are like, the point of our job, the point of our existence is to stick our nose in things and find out things and like be the nosy neighbor next door and I Love Lucy or whatever. What's that show? Is it I Love? Yeah. There's another
Gladys
show.
Kravitz.
Yes. Thank you.
Bewitched.
Whoa, that's
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
that was
what I
my
meant.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Really?
No kidding. And also, right around the corner, the house still stands.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
It's
that
right
was a
on
real
the,
still
on the-
there?
It's not a real house. It's on the Warner Ranch lot.
Oh, on the lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It still stands though.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. But in '05, I had a shit ton more energy and I was around a lot when people wanted me around. And
Right.
Chris is one of those really lovely humans that like, he likes having people around that are not the same. Mm-hmm. So I was a weirdo that was like from upstate New York, which is why I was asking about college,
yes,
because that's a
Binghamton,
crazy to come out here. It's bizarre.
From Rochester.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I'm from outside. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a dreary joint. Anyway, so, but carrying that weirdness of dreariness, I think, made me unique in a way that was tolerable. And so he was awesome and had me around. So he invited me to watch the show, and they years later when I switched companies, they used it as like my headshot, and I was
really?
like, why would you do that? I look like a sausage. I'm stuffed into a client's like size 2 dress. I was not
Didn't
a
that
size
become
2.
your picture for everything? Like Nikki
Yes.
Fink when you on Deadline when you switch companies and all that stuff.
Horrible.
That's so funny.
Horrible.
So funny what they hold on to.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You really have to always manage that, what picture they're using and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, at the time, it really upset me. And now I'm like, my hair's breaking off. I don't care. I wear headphones because my hair's breaking. Like, I don't care. But that's when I would have seen you. And I don't remember if I was around the writer's room or stuff. I know
We had a
I
lot
would
of
have
writers
emailed
that
you.
year. I do remember that. There's a ton of people.
How many, like, approximately?
I would say probably 12 writers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he was always really, there's a lot of names that, like, I knew that I didn't know. And there was other ones that he was like, you've got to know who this person is. And I was like, I have no idea. But he was really big on like diversity in the group.
But even at Everybody Hates Chris, he was. The writer's room was always, men, women, black, white. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
was
an all
before
shapes and
his
colors
time
type
that
of
way,
person. Yeah.
Because now it's used to be all white guys and the occasional me there.
I wanted to ask you about that, the Seinfeld writing room. Can we jump around? Oh, we
Sure.
didn't finish this, who we are. Let's
Yeah.
finish that real quick.
Right.
Life looked different. We couldn't do the things we used to do. And once everything kind of settled, working from home seemed to be the best idea. And a change of what we were doing seemed to be a good idea. Well, during that period of illness and soul searching and figuring things out,
Right.
I went back to what I was doing as a kid. And that's where this whole outlook currently is childlike and whimsical. And this is ridiculous what we're doing right now. I'm aware of it. I love that about it. That's my favorite part about it. There's an episode of Seinfeld with the Merv Griffin set in the house.
Yes.
Obviously, this is that. I mean, this is that.
I know.
There's no way
to
around
find
it.
a desk like this.
This is actually Dave's
This
desk
is
and
the
chairs.
real one.
This is the real stuff.
You're the first
From the
person
Ed
who
Sullivan
might have
Theater.
actually. No, Sarah, I'm so excited for
All
you to
right,
see
well,
it.
There's a picture of it behind you when it was in the theater.
Oh my God! But how did that happen? You got it. Oh my God!
That's why all this stuff
crazy.
is so how it
That's
is and beat up
crazy.
and whatever.
Wow.
So like Drew Barrymore and the whole thing. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Bill Murray spray painted Dave on the front on the opening night.
All right. How did you get this desk?
That I'll tell you off the air too. But
Okay.
that's a part of a bigger story, that this unfolding of this is what there's a story that we started when I was a kid, that something happened to take me off of the here allow me. This is worth doing.
Yeah.
Looking at the monitor, this is what I was doing in high school. That's Up With
okay.
People.
Up
I
With
put that show
People.
together. I kept doing it. We had different sets, different places, kept doing it.
Wow.
I replicated the microphone to be just like Letterman's and the whole bit. There's all sorts of stories. This was like from my prom. This is what they did. I was drawing pictures like this.
Amazing.
And like this is the desk and chairs we're now sitting at. I drew that
Wow.
in whatever year it says there, the 90s. And then I took an internship and started working. This is my senior year in high school. I went to night school, and I'm working at 30 Rock during the day. It was
Oh, my
Conan back in the
God.
day. And SNL. Someone remembered me at SNL when we went back, so they put us in the front row when we went just as viewers. So
Is that when
I've
Latifah hosted?
what's that?
Is that when Latifah hosted?
No, it was I don't remember who it was.
Okay.
I always say to people, that's such a good idea. of how to get into the business, get an internship, like at 30 Rock, like you did. But I bet you now it's really hard.
It was, I would imagine, hard then.
Imagine.
Yeah.
For me, I was failing every subject because I was spending all of my time in the television studio doing this, booking
Right.
guests, writing segments, building the set, replicating Dave's microphone perfectly, etc.
Yeah.
That I was failing everything that wasn't band, art, public speaking, anything arts. And the school had a very good reputation. This is Wilton High School in Fairfield County, Connecticut. They don't really care for people who futz around and are going to ruin their bottom line
Right.
for higher education percentages, etc. They set up an internship for me junior year at the local TV station. I went nuts with that, so the next year I went down to 30 Rock. So junior in high school,
Incredible.
or junior and senior year, I was not even in school. I was going to night school and I was down
And
there.
you know that world. Like, I don't want to speak for you, but that sounded crazy to me.
Yeah.
That, like, it was possible and that it
Right.
happened. Like, those two things it doesn't happen.
But you're in it. I mean, it's the same thing. You're just like, talk about it, and now you're there.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And being there helps me with my manifestations and stuff like that, which I'm found out as a kid I was very good at, didn't know it, that kind of thing. I'll tell you the story off the air. There's a documentary being made about it. That's
A lot
why.
of stories off
It's
the
the
air.
same
I don't
story.
know if
It's
I
the
have-
same one. It's the
Okay.
same. It's one story. But we started it way back when I was a kid, and this is where we've gotten. And you want to be a writer and to be a podcaster of your own, not just for this stuff. And to get her over the hump, we said, well, let's do one together. It started with us at a dining room table. This is where we've gotten 4 months later. No joke.
So you've only been doing it for 4
We
months?
just started doing it, yeah.
Incredible.
It was February, I think we started, yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Here we are.
How do you get more subscribers and people to your podcast?
I don't know anything
Yeah.
about that part. I don't know anything about
Really?
that part. I
Yeah.
focus on this part, and I truly believe that the rest will come. I believe you being here today will probably help us. Probably.
Well, I saw it on Facebook because you.
We're putting it out on Facebook every day, and like I know you are too, and especially with more car people that know your face.
Yeah.
I'm and one of the reasons I love whatever I'm a fan. But the reason why is because there's so much side story of like everyone. Everyone's collaborating and everyone's coming together. So the show is your thing and it's our thing. But our fans, the people that watch it, are mostly car people. So it's like it's going to different groups of people. We're not trying to make it the biggest show ever. We're not trying to like market. I
I
could
mean,
do
car
that.
people listen to it.
Yeah,
but they're
Porsche.
not watching it.
Oh, they're watching. Sorry, I misspoke. They're watching it too, but they're just curious about us because they've met us and they're like,
Right.
"What's your deal?" Kind of like what you said. And I am always surprised when people don't know that I have MS. So it's to me, I'm like, it's as if I'm wearing a sign. So I'm like, of course, this is what we're doing. He's making life that I can do. Like that's it.
Right.
It's not anything vain. There's nothing like I want to be a superstar. I don't give a shit. I want to write.
We need to do something sustainable.
But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, what were the symptoms that led you to going to the doctor that led to your diagnosis?
I got a blind spot. I had a crazy migraine at work one time when I was at a green screen shoot. So it was like horrible lighting, situational anyway. But I had a horrible migraine. I'd never had one before, and I did not know how to deal with it. No one on the set gave a shit at all. Like they were so focused on the actor and whatever, which
Right.
they should be. But like as a human, I felt really horrible. So I had this horrible migraine, and I told him, and I just rested that day. But I woke up and my eye was fuzzy the next day. Which, being a girl, I was like, I wear a lot of mascara, and I probably have an eyelash back there, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've had glasses on and off since I was 10, so it's like, who cares? Like, your eye's a little weird. But I went to the eye doctor, and he was this old dude, and meaning only that, like, he'd seen it all. Like, he's been around forever, and his fear of what he saw was
Right.
so jarring to me that I was
Wow.
like, something's up. Like, this isn't a normal eye doctor appointment. I ended up he ended up being like, you should go see your GP. You need to figure out what this is because it's not
'Cause he
an
didn't-
eye thing.
Yeah, he didn't know.
He didn't know, and I mean, similarly, I have a lot of distrust for the medical people that were involved in my world at the time. But as a professional in the eye care business,
Right.
he did not know. And so his suppositions and projections, I think, made everything a little more heightened, but whatever. That fear of what he saw made me focus more on fixing it. And so I called every doctor and I was like, find a specialist, figure this out. I'm too busy. I thought my job was really important at the time. I was like, I'm really busy. I don't have time for this. So you can force anyone to diagnose you. So it took a year of a lot of specialists, but they found it. I had a spinal tap and whatever, and they were like, my
That's
neurologist,
painful, right?
I don't really feel pain.
Yeah,
Which is what I found out through this process.
But you went down after that, though,
went
because you went
down.
straight to Miami for a photo shoot with like Serena Williams or something.
Cover
and
of Vogue. I had to be there. It was horrible.
But I just remember the messages I was getting from you, and you sounded and looked like death. I mean, that's when I really got worried because you were so far away and I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're super painful, and I found out a ton about myself through this process. It's fascinating, so that's why I tend to be a little narcissistic. I apologize. in
And I
advance.
happen to believe that that's why she had to go through this process, to learn a ton about herself.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It just sucks. But I'm one of like the 5% that has like an adverse reaction to spinal tap. So that did not help anything.
Right.
You're not supposed to fly, even though I told them before they did anything. I'm like, I have a flight that night. They're like, cool. You're not supposed to do that. So that was not awesome. I took a new business meeting before I got on the flight.
Oh my God.
I was really an overachiever in every
They
way.
didn't really prepare you well.
For any of it, which is why this whole thing has gotten, I think it's why it got really out of control because I had no idea what to look for because everything was a problem. And so you mentally go, uh-oh, I'm dying, because you are. This disease is, you're just dying quickly in some ways and slowly in others because we're all dying, like whatever. But once you acknowledge that and you're like, okay, I'm not dying because of this thing, but
Right.
what is that thing?
Yeah.
And that's when I turned to the stuff it was a whole thing. It uprooted everything when this diagnosis happened. Or when the flare-up happened, rather, because the diagnosis, I was still like full steam ahead. But that's why the story is like, Tina's book is, I was watching it back, like it's topical, but it's really just stories. It's,
Tina Fey?
Yeah, Tina's book. And it mirrors yours, because yours is topical.
Correct. That is a correct answer.
It's just stuff like that. I totally got off track and I'm sorry. But your book, in a similar way, really, by telling those stories and sharing those stories, it allows everyone to go, okay, that's not what's killing me. Keep going.
Right, right.
It's what
And
allowed
also,
me to do it.
it's always great to write about, look how I did this and look how I did that. But I also, a lot of the stories are, look how I messed up there. Don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make the turn I made.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
It's a great lesson.
It's a great lesson. And it's like, once I got over my own crap about whatever, my guilt or whatever, I realized that too. And so then it was like, okay, cool. You've gotten it. You're okay with telling the stories of whatever. How do you do it? And so that's what, again, when I went into like, I read Tina's book again and your book again, because I was like, okay, what's the structure look like? And then I was able to kind of mirror with some of your work on Seinfeld and Garry Shandling.
Yeah.
You only did one episode with him, right, for that show?
No, I worked on staff right after I worked on a show called Almost Perfect, and then I went to Shandling.
I'm having a moment here because I guess I skipped this
Sanders.
part of your... Yeah, well, I didn't realize. I didn't know. He's incredibly special to me, and I don't even know. I never knew the man. I've met him. I never knew the man, and I feel like I know
He's
the man better
amazing.
than
Yeah, and what's
better
really
than is possible.
kind of serendipitous about life and stuff is that I stayed friends with Garry after I wrote on the show. I knew him before as a stand-up because we were both stand-ups, but we stayed friends afterwards, and I put together a comedy dinner a couple times a year, and it's Bill Maher and Larry David and a guy named Jim Valley, a great writer, and it was Garry and myself, and we meet at either in Dan Tana's or...
Was that picture that you put up, like, probably a few months ago, but there was a bunch of dudes?
Yes.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
we get together, but I wouldn't see Garry all that much, but I got married a couple years ago to my wife, Lori. And,
Hi, Lori.
and Garry came to the wedding, and we just had like a mind meld that, like, we spoke to him the most of any guest at the wedding, so much so that the wedding planner was like, people are waiting to eat. Can you, like, pick it up? And right before I said, oh, okay. And right before we went to, like, be introduced, the big thing, I said to Garry, right then, like, I know we don't see each other a lot, but when we do, I feel like we connect so much. He went, I feel the same exact way. And I was like, I'm so glad you're here to share this with us. And then 3 months later, he passed away. But to have had that moment and that thing of, like, boy, I really, you could just go, wedding planners, like, it's time, great talking to you. But that we had that moment before he passed away, it was, like, still means so much to me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a staff writer on the show.
Yeah.
How long were
I
you
wasn't
there?
actually, I was a co-EP on the show.
Oh,
writer.
wow,
Yeah.
you're so
Sorry,
modest.
I'm getting all titly
So modest.
on you. Yeah.
I think that's, I should just flat out say that it's one of my favorite shows of all time. I think it's one of the best, most important TV shows of our generation.
Yeah. It was
really
really
do.
seminal show for so many things. And what was great also about Garry is that people wouldn't know unless you worked at the show. He could look at a scene and, like a playwright, like, know what was working, know what wasn't working,
could feel it.
and move it around. Yeah, he was really very intuitive writer that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, never met him, but I feel that I know him, and anybody else I've talked to, whether they do know him or don't, seem to share the same type of thing.
Yeah.
And I can't explain what it is, but if you've ever locked eyes with the man, it's like you know him. It's very weird.
Very soulful.
Soulful.
person.
I mean, deep, and I'm deep. I'm deep now. So it's one of those where I
Yeah.
thought it was neat then, and now I appreciate it and wish I could have it again. That kind of thing.
But something I learned from Judd's documentary that I didn't know, being friends with Garry, that I would have loved to ask him about, is I knew he had that car accident, but I didn't know that when he had that car accident many years ago, that he talks about having left his body
Yeah.
and seeing himself and asking if he wanted to. I think that was the story of this.
Do you want to keep living the
Keep
Garry
living.
Shandling life?
Yeah. So,
You
And
didn't
I've
know.
heard
I would
that
have
story
liked to
about
ask
10
him about
different
that.
times.
Really?
That's when I feel that my bond with, we're getting heady now, but that's when I feel that my bond with the recently departed, he died right when we were in the middle of this whole thing.
Really?
And the day she called me to let me know, and I pulled over and I just started sobbing uncontrollably. I mean, I did not know him. He did not know me. We'd met. I've seen him.
Yeah.
I was sobbing, totally affected, completely affected. And from that day forward, it almost was like a thing where I just felt like I had a path now, and I knew where I was going now, and everything sort of made sense, even though I didn't necessarily know why. And there's no way to. And I'm not saying I'm Garry Shandling reincarnate. I'm nothing like that. But I'm saying that guy gave everyone he touched a gift, and maybe I got a piece of it. And if so, I am so grateful.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I can't believe you didn't know that. Did he not talk about stuff like that?
It just never came up in our conversations being friends. So I would have liked to have asked him more about that, because it's a pretty wild story.
Yeah.
And
He got a great feeling of understanding after that, as I have taken on.
Yeah, yeah.
It's almost like maybe that you don't, that there's that it doesn't matter or something. There's something else. There's some sort of knowing that comes along with it.
yeah.
Yeah, I've had experiences that are not the same, but they're near deathy. So I understand what he says, but that when he died, I was gone. in fairness, I really thought I was dying too. And so I was taking a last trip back to see my uncle. I don't really talk to my family, but he was the one I was talking to at the time, and I was like, I'll fly out. Like, he flies to like Alabama every week for work or something.
You do now. There was a time there. It was a little
Yeah.
tumultuous. Now you
Then,
do.
but when Garry died, I was like, I wasn't with you, and I didn't. It was the weirdest feeling. It was just bizarre because like we were on a layover, and I was like, please pull over. I don't know where you are. Like, please don't be driving when I talk to you or tell you this. It was very weird.
So bizarre when I heard, I was on my way, I was in New York on my way to meet Alan Zweibel for a drink, who's a friend,
No
who
way.
created It's Garry Shandling Show.
You know everybody. Awesome.
I know a lot of people.
So say you've been working, like you said, you've been doing it a long time.
I've been doing it a long time, but I'm also a very big proponent. One of the things that I talk about in my book,
Which one? There it is.
that to be in this business, you not only need to be a social person, you should be a social person, because that's how things happen. When you meet people and talk to people and get to know people,
Synapse.
yeah, other opportunities, things happen. So, like I said, going over to Robert Morris and Gelson's supermarket,
It's hilarious.
Isn't it the best though?
yeah, I've been shot down, or I don't. It's rare that you get the person that's snotty or whatever, and I'm fine with it.
By the way, then you don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
You got your answer.
right. But it's so worth it because so many great things have happened from being social.
Just putting yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of your stories in there are like that, and they're so much fun.
But I mean, like I went to a Bill Maher real-time rap party. It was a few years ago. Marley Matlin was there, who was on my episode of Seinfeld, The Lip Reader.
Oh God, that's a great episode.
It's a great episode.
Thank you. She was there with Jack Jason, her friend, who also acts as her interpreter. And we're bullshitting at the party and having a great time. And at the end, it's like, we should do something together. And then I sold a pilot to Showtime that was starring Marley. It didn't go.
Still?
But yeah, exactly.
Wow.
That's a cool
I like
tidbit.
Marley. I worked
She's
with her on the
great.
practice years ago. I like her a lot with the same fella.
Yeah, Jack. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Good people.
Agreed.
You've had a ton of experiences, obviously, but like, is there any that stick out of like that was like a seminal moment of awesome, cool that I don't want to ever forget?
I'd like to hear a list of those moments
I
if
know.
possible.
Yeah.
There's more than one. I'm sure.
Just this past Oscars, I wrote on this past Oscars with Jimmy hosting. And it's very cool because the presenters, the celebrities, come in to rehearse their spiel. And if you write for the show, part like I did, you're in the room where they go over their stuff and all that. And so whoever wrote that stuff meets with the celebrity. So my friend Dave Boone, who's a great comedy writer, had written Lin-Manuel Miranda's stuff. So I just said to him, especially because our son, who's 12, is like so crazy for Hamilton. It's like, I've got to meet Lin. And he was like, absolutely, when I'm, working with him, come over. And I just kind of like, and he was like, oh, Carol Leifer. And I was like, oh, what? And he was like, oh my God, I've been following you for so long, stand up and think. And I was like, absolutely blown away. And that he was,
Why?
Yeah.
Why
yeah.
were you blown away?
I second
Because some people.
You had a moment,
Yeah,
right?
we had a
Yeah.
moment. And some people know me, a lot of people don't know me. So for a guy like that to not only know me, but like, oh, I've been following this and it just like, I said, you made my year. Like, this isn't just today. That's
so
it for the year. And then to show the picture to our son, of.
Did he go crazy?
He went crazy. Yeah, he went crazy.
Coolest.
Yeah. So I'm still, and I'm still starstruck when I meet people. I always think, like, don't ever lose that part of yourself.
Ooh, I like
That's
that.
a good
yeah,
piece of advice.
like the pinch me part of yourself. I'm still like, I just work with Carol Burnett. I mean,
Oh God,
talk about a pinch me.
legend.
Yeah.
I just watched a bit of that this morning. Was that the most? Pause. You're nominated for a bunch of Emmys, right? Like
I'm
3?
Oh.
No, I'm not nominated. I
Stuff
think what
you've
you saw
worked
on my
on?
Facebook page was now is the time that the nominations, people can put in their vote for to be nominated
Oh,
on
yeah.
that ballot. So it's early, but
FYI.
yeah, I wrote on the Oscars.
So it's
Carol
the submissions
Burnett.
phase right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Oscars, Carol Burnett, and Better Late Than Never.
Yeah.
Right, NBC show.
Can we talk about the Carol Burnett Netflix
Yeah.
show a little bit? I only have seen one episode, but I love it. It reminds me of Kids Say the Darndest Things way back in the old days.
Yes, yes.
But the content is completely different. It's far more interactive. Have you seen it at all yet?
One episode.
Okay. We did our research.
Yeah, I remember you said nice things about it too.
Well, I'm a fan of Carol's as well from way back when I used to be too old to stay up to watch the Carol Burnett show,
Yeah.
of course, and the whole thing.
Right.
And I mean, I remember, the cartoon at the end was her sweeping, the cartoon of Carol Burnett sweeping the place out and the whole
Yes.
thing. This is like, before I would watch probably stayed up after the Muppet Show or something. So I was always a fan of hers, and then throughout her movie career and everything else, I love that. I'm a theater geek too, so I love that movie Noises Off that she was in with an all-star cast.
Yeah.
And then this show, I'm like, this is perfect for her. I don't know the story about it. Did she create it? Did you create it? Who created it? Why did it happen? This is the perfect place for Carol Burnett today, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Talking to kids and educating America.
This is
Right,
going to
right.
keep happening.
Well, we just did the first season of it. I don't know whose idea it is. They just brought me on when they already had the concept and everything. But Carol loves kids,
Okay.
and she's good with kids.
Very.
Um,
The people they bring in are pretty good too. The
yeah.
celebrities.
Yeah. Oh, they got great celebrities, and it's of course no surprise because everybody's like to work with
Carol Burnett, sure,
I'll
yeah.
be there. Yeah. I'll hold cue cards for Carol Burnett.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
So people were just like blown away. But she's, to meet someone like that and then to work with her and then, there's always that moment where like, oh, if you guys this summer go up to around Santa Barbara, give me a call. And my husband will meet you for dinner. And it's like, okay, I can actually, we can call it quits now. It's happened.
Right? Like you did it.
Yeah.
You did it. You've been doing it, but then you did it. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite Larry Sanders Show episodes is the one with Carol Burnett, and they're doing it. They're trying to do a comedy piece together, whether it's Tarzan or something, and I can't remember why it doesn't work. But
Oh, I forgot about that one.
yeah,
Were you there? For
very
that?
early
Yeah.
on. I think it was a very early, like season 1 even, but it was great. Just watching her do physical comedy and just watching her with other people. You know what it is? There's not enough Carol Burnett for me.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I
Yeah.
need to see more Carol Burnett, so I'm just happy that she's here.
Absolutely.
That may be it.
And to know her and interact with her, she's still so appreciative of everything and every opportunity
she's
and a total
awesome.
pro and on time and, nice to everyone from, the lowest person on the set to the biggest executive, the same treatment, just a class act.
Isn't that's something that people seem to have in common with like the great ones? Jackie Gleason apparently had something similar to that, where I had always heard these stories when I was a kid that he was like, whatever, there were some negatives. And then I talked to somebody who I can't remember, but their dad worked on something at the Ed Sullivan Theater. By the way, the Jackie Gleason show and the Honeymooners used to be done in the Ed Sullivan Theater. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I
Most
didn't know
people
that.
don't.
Wow.
My dad used to, growing up in Connecticut, he was like me, and his best friend lived across the street. Mom was the secretary to someone at, secretary back then. Secretary is not a toy.
Yeah.
To someone at CBS, and they used to go to tapings all the time. So he would go see Jackie Gleason, and I'd hear all these stories that I didn't give a shit about because they weren't anything I knew about. And then one day, David Letterman's moving to the Ed Sullivan Theater. I'm like, can you tell me those stories again?
God,
Anyway,
crazy.
all of that to get to Carol Burnett, Jackie Gleason, these people who are just like known as just being so good. There seems to be a lot of similarities in their appreciation, their gratefulness, how kind they are to other people.
Yeah.
They're not just out to, they're not number one because they're out looking out for number one. They're here to boost up Carol Leifer and to boost up Nicole. And somehow they get it in as well.
Yeah. No, there's...
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm blathering now, but
No, I mean, what you're saying is the pros are the pros for a reason because they have an innate goodness and innate love of the business.
yeah.
And
And people too, though.
yeah, absolutely.
They're serving the people in a weird way.
I mean, Carol Burnett, people used to write her letters. We did this show that was a special, the 50th anniversary of Carol Burnett show.
Well, you guys did the set and everything again
Yeah,
with all that stuff.
and we
so
did
cool.
a segment. Jim Carrey wrote a letter to Carol Burnett
When he was a kid?
growing up, saying, "I really admire you, and I'd love to." And she answered his letter.
Come on.
She answered every letter
Isn't that
was
the
sent.
coolest?
Wow.
Yeah. Every single one. If you wrote her a letter now, she'd answer it. She's just that type of person. I give her my book,
I hope so.
and she was like, 2 days later, Carol, I read your book and I loved it. And quote certain things. She was intrigued because I write about doing TM, transcendental meditation,
I do
and
that
she
also.
was interested in that.
Did you
So
talk about it when you guys did the show? Does she do it now?
I gave her the name of my teacher.
Cool.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
That's really neat.
I don't know if you realize the parallel here, but that's exactly what happened with Mrs. Ryan here. She paid a little tribute to you, and you said, "Oh my goodness, well, I will watch that episode. I would like to know when I'm going to be on." And you're sitting here now, a few
Yes,
weeks later.
that's right.
So
That's right.
I would like you to get some of that credit as well.
And what I almost wrote you, which I didn't want to be a total loser, but like you are a pro too. So everything you said just now, I'm like, stop talking about yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
You're the most perfunctory, on time, perfect pro, and I'm really appreciative having
thank
worked
you.
with a lot of people as you have, and like you can tell the difference.
Bet
and
you a lot of guests show up late.
oh,
Betcha.
oh, yeah, but it says something about. I understand now on the having been through that part of it. It's a rigmarole and it's a grind, and I don't think people anticipate that when they get involved in show business. So it's like stories like, I mean, there's a ton that you have, like the rule of 10. Is that
Rule of 10 is that
From
something
Leno?
I got from Jay Leno. Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Rule of 10.
Oh,
Rule of 10 is, I've known Jay for a really long time, and I feel badly that he's gotten a bad rap of being a
Yeah.
conniver and
he's,
blah,
he's just
blah.
a hard worker.
he's a good guy.
Yeah,
And
agreed. We both love him.
when I've worked with him, he's the nicest person to fans I've ever seen. Picture, autograph, now it's selfies and stuff. Anything.
He'll take you for a
somebody
ride if
needs.
you want to go. I mean, he's that kind of guy, for real.
Would. But his philosophy, which is true, is if you're nice to one person, they're going to go back and tell 10 other people. You know who I met today who's really nice? Jay
Wow.
Leno. And it kind of grows. It's like that old, was it Well of Balsam? Like, and so on,
But
and so on.
grassroots,
and so
proper.
On. Yeah. And that's why it's important, because the converse works too. When you're
Yeah.
shitty to people, a word gets out. And then people don't want to work with you because they've heard from that person and that person and that person. It's really a very small town, but it's not just show business, it's any business.
Everything.
Small world, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I extracted from the entertainment. I've been rebuilding my brain, and I feel like I sound like Whitney Cummings, so I hope she'll come on too. But in that process, you get to make the choice every minute of like, are you being a good person? Are you doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And it's not about my mom she's one of those people that's like, I want to do the right thing. And I'm like, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But on paper, the right thing versus what feels right in the moment are
Right.
very different.
Yes.
And so if you're just following the rules of what's right, it's not always beneficial to whoever you're trying to be right to.
Yeah.
That's a super hard lesson, it seems, for people to acknowledge in themselves.
Yeah, and in a certain way, I think being a lot older than you, what I also tell people is like, be a little old school in getting into show business with things. Like in terms of, if you have a meeting with someone or you have a job interview, I'm such a proponent, I talk about in my book, write a note on nice stationery. It's, to that person and say, thank you for meeting with me, even if it doesn't mean anything. I appreciate your time, and best of luck with whatever you do. A lot of younger people, I'm kind of alarmed at, they don't have the etiquette that you need to get ahead and be successful. I mean, I was in New York last month, and I'm working with a new booking agent who I worked with a million years ago. And I went up to his office to meet him. He was a guy around my age. And he's like, oh, and here are my, young associates. And he's got 2 people who work with him now. And you know what? They did not even get up from their computers to say hello. And I wanted to say to him later, like, I'm glad you have, like, some young energy in your office, but tell them to get up from their fucking computer the next time somebody comes.
Just
they
look.
need somebody. Yeah, it's not like, hi. No, you get up and you shake hands. And it's what we're teaching our son now is to, and you look people in the eye.
Yeah.
And that's how.
Make the connection.
Yeah, because it can also flip. I talk about what we were talking about, being late for an interview. If I've been on both sides. I go up for jobs and people come to me for jobs. If somebody's late, they're out. It's like, I don't care what was going on or what problem you had. It doesn't matter. Like, you were late. So X, Y, and Z who weren't late, that's who I'm choosing from.
Yeah.
Not you who was late.
Yeah. I feel like it all comes down to like, do what you really want to do. And if you don't really want to talk to that person, don't waste their time sending them a letter, because that's and I feel like that's what happened to me a lot on my side of the business, was like people just wanted a thank you or a phone call or whatever. And it's like, but why? What are you going to say? They're like, I just need it for 5 minutes. I'm like, me too.
Right.
I actually have shit to do with that 5 minutes. Like, what do you want 5 minutes for? Because then I would get on the phone. Well, you pre-interviews and shit for like talk shows. It's like, if you don't have a good segment producer and they're pulling from like, what'd you do this week? It's like, you're wasting all of our time.
Right. And also, I think what you're talking about too is and this I think was in Bernie Brillstein's book, being straight with people. It's instead of like not returning phone calls, it takes 2 seconds to go, whatever, I got your submission and it wasn't exactly what we're looking for, but thanks. And then it's over, as opposed to
Over.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to dodge this guy's call every time.
Right. It's
Bernie
just bad behavior.
It's horrible.
I call it being square with the world.
Bernie was like such a good, my memory of him, I worked with him briefly. Like, he had Marty Short, my boss repped Marty Short and a couple other people. But like, I remember being brand new and a talk show was happening and they're like, get Marty's address, like figure out where he's going to be. And I literally called Bernie Brillstein's office, like an arrogant 22-year-old that I was, and was like, I need to talk to Bernie. And his assistant, he called me back. Like, his assistant gave him the message, and I was like, hi, where's Marty going to be on Wednesday at 3? Like, not understanding anything. And
Make sure you get Bernie himself on the phone.
Yeah.
Not his assistant has been there for 20 years. Like, this guy, like, bought our house, was like, don't go anywhere. Anyway, this generous human whose book I'd read and taught me everything I knew to get even my foot in the door, was so gracious with his time. And I've never forgotten that. And now that he's passed, it's like, I know a ton of managers and a ton of publicists, whatever. It was my old life. No one's like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want everyone to read that book and just go, can I be anything like that? Mm-hmm. Can I do anything? And you embody that. And it sounds like the people that you work with do too. And like, I could talk to you for hours and I won't. But, that story that I told on that show, like the understudy story of like all of there's just love that goes in every piece of that story of like, none of it should have happened. It should have, if you were just on paper being like, is it worth whatever? No, write another episode, like do another, but like you guys all made that happen. It's a terrific episode.
Oh, you're talking about
the
understudy
one.
with Marge Gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Who has passed away. Yeah. But that Bette Midler did it's hard to think of a time when Seinfeld was struggling to get guest stars, but there was. And when Marge and I wrote the understudy, we needed a big star to play the star of a Broadway show. We couldn't get a lot of people and got a lot of passes. And then Bette Midler, who knew Marge from her cabaret days, was like, and heard that she was struggling with cancer, was like, I'm there. I'm doing it. I'll do it.
It just feels like a Bernie like sentiment of like,
Yes.
just do what feels right.
Right,
And that's
right.
the answer. And
Yeah.
so much of that comes through your stories. And I love having that.
That's a
as
Bernie thing. Do what feels right. That was his.
I don't know if he said it, but he embodied that in his actions.
Well, it's what I believe too, and everyone I respect believes as well. So
Yeah.
I feel like he embodied that.
Follow your heart.
I'll just say that you do, and from what I know, and like there's a lot of people in this business who don't, and so the ones that really embody that and stay true to it, because it's hard, because people are dumb and they ask stupid questions, and they're like not always as funny as you want them to be, and so moments are just.
But also, I also hold people accountable. Like I call a lot of people, agents who don't call me back. I'll keep calling, and I'll say to the assistant, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I called 2 days ago. Do you think he hasn't answered yet, or will he get back to me? I don't just let it go like, oh, yeah, I got the brush off, so I'm going away. Like, I'm not going away.
Is that the rule? Should you just persistence?
I think so, absolutely. If you call somebody and they don't call you back, I mean, if you're cold calling,
It's
George
different.
Clooney, I get it. Just a person. But if you're someone in the business and you're calling an agent, like I'm calling about an actress right now, for their availability for a project, yeah, you can. If they don't call, I just don't go away. I'm like, say to the assistant, well, I just would love some kind of answer, even if it's no or whatever. And I'm not rude about it. I just feel
It's a matter of fact.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
It's
just a
respect.
transaction. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Respect.
It's respect. I just, again, and whatever, like not everyone's like that. So it's like a salute. And like, I want to give you a balloon every time you do something. It's so rare. I'm so grateful.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you if you had a Letterman story, because we never really wrapped up. It was Catch a Rising Star, but how did...
He saw me at the comic strip.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Right. I didn't know that he was in the audience,
Okay.
but he,
What year was this?
80.
Okay, so you were right, 80 as
Yeah.
well.
And then recommended me to The Tonight Show. So a guy named Jim McCauley, who was a
Famous
big
booker, yeah, of
power
course.
player at the time,
Yeah.
called me and said, Jay Letterman saw you and said you're good and blah, blah, blah. Well, they didn't use me. But when Letterman got his own show, I just got booked right away. So,
No kidding.
Yeah. So it was...
Wow. Was that the morning show then, or would
no.
it? So the late
was
night.
on late night.
Is
So
that,
cool.
Sorry.
Oh, my first appearance is, I put it up on YouTube. On Facebook recently, because somebody did a first appearance reel. of
compilation.
people.
Yeah, we
So
watch
good.
all that stuff on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
I mean, it's
from
better than
April
regular
1st,
television.
1982.
Yes,
It's
I
pretty
got the
wild.
date right.
Yeah,
Gosh, that was right after the show started.
yeah.
Wow.
There's an effervescence just that reminded me of Gilda Radner. I don't know if anyone's ever said that to you, but like that blue jumper that got
yeah.
set, like it was just Gilda, like insides. It was really cool.
Thank you. It was a really great night. One of the best nights of my life.
Yeah?
To have network television.
Yeah, you're
they
in
do, and-
you're in 30 Rock for one, which is
Yeah,
electric, right?
And to do the show and have it go well, and yeah.
Is that the night that Jerry gave you that great advice?
No, that was the night that we were taping my pilot, All Right Already, for the WB, and I was all keyed up, sitcom that I wrote and starred in, and short-lived, obviously, but...
My
it
friends
was all-
love it.
Oh,
They
that's
love
sweet.
it.
Oh,
Like,
thanks.
yeah.
And I was really keyed up, and Jerry said to me, there's not just one thing. And I like that piece of advice, because you can get so keyed up.
On the one thing.
Yeah.
So zoom out,
this
right?
is it. It's like, no, your career is 60 things or 100
that's
things.
great.
Yeah.
You
got to.
Yeah.
It's the same as zoom out, right? I say zoom out, like you're too zoomed in on whatever the problem is. Is that the same kind of
It
ideology?
sounds similar, and then the other theme that I notice is like have fun, like find a way to have fun with
Yes.
whatever you're doing. Enjoy it, because the advice is strong from everyone from you that you put in your book, but like in general, it kind of oozes that you're giving it to other people, and that's what I want to take away from it. It's like,
I mean, the other big thing that I always like to say when I talk about my book, because I always feel like, a big piece of advice my mother gave me when I was growing up was, you don't ask, you don't get. Okay? And at first glance, it can seem like a little grabby or selfish. It's so not that. I think the advice was always, you need to be the architect of your own success. And that means
Creator.
being involved and asking for things. And I also think women have a certain advantage this way, because we're more used to asking for things from people or favors.
Interesting.
It's, I think, more second nature, certainly for me. But to ask someone, when I wrote A Modern Family, I saw Steve Levitan, the co-creator, around at some Emmy parties, and just took him aside and said, I have some Modern Family ideas. Would you consider my coming in and pitching some stories? Consider is a great word. Instead of, can I come in and pitch something?
Puts it on them. Then
Right.
they feel they have
Yeah.
a choice.
And
We all
not
know
a-
Carol's not going away.
right, exactly. Because I'm also not afraid to know. I mean, he could have turned around and said, I got a staff of full-time people. Thank you, but I can't do it. No harm, no foul. Great. thank you for your time. But so many times the answer is sure, yeah, come on in, and that led
And you
to
never would have known.
right. Because things don't fall in your lap, especially in show business. I love people who think, oh, I'm going to take a stand-up comedy class, and then I'm going to wait at home, and all
wait for it to happen.
pouring in.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't happen that way. You have to make stuff happen. You're the person that is making that happen.
And is that true now more than in anything you've written about previous, like any other time, or is it similar?
It's always. I mean, I don't stop. It's like a shark. You got to keep swimming or you'll die. It's like you always just keep moving, and I'm always, like I said, it's like it's the Zen secret to me of show business or success. If you're not afraid of no, you can ask for anything, and if you do it in a nice way, that doesn't put people on edge or make them feel pressured. If you're not afraid of no, you can really go far because you're always going to be creating these opportunities.
Don't be afraid in general.
Yeah.
Of no's or anything else.
Right.
I was. I mean, my whole half of my life. Terrified.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter why. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's got a story. Everyone's got an upbringing or whatever. Just get over it. Once you can, get over it.
Is the majority of the response, but if
Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, you can't get a yes to everything.
No, but if you let it roll off your back, you just keep doing it. But so much of fear controls people about, well, I don't want to do this because maybe they'll say no. So maybe they will.
Did you
move
always?
on.
Were you always able to have that outlook, or did you ever have a problem with the fear and worrying about?
I think as
pushing
I've
too
gotten
far?
older, I've gotten more bold about those kind of things.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's why in my book I wanted to, like, that's exactly an example of, I wish I was bolder when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to impart that to people, like, to be bold because there's no downside. I see that now. It's safe to be fearful. I didn't,
Isn't that weird? It's safe to be fearful.
Yeah.
Ironic. Isn't it? It's safe to be afraid.
Yeah. I remember that.
And then one day you realize you got nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. I guess so.
Right.
Maybe.
The point is that you live in a way that you don't have anything to be afraid of, and then it goes away.
I'm conscious of your time. Can I get personal just for a second about
Sure.
your life and your marriage?
Yeah.
What stuck out to me is this is a story that is very close to me because the only relatives I really have, the only ones I have a close relationship with are my aunts. And I say my aunts plural.
Okay.
My Aunt Barb and her wife, Aunt Kelly. My Aunt Barb was married a couple times in life. Nothing ever made sense. She was very happy. She's always been successful. She's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
She's the family member that, like, when shit goes down, that's the one that you would call, One day, she went on a cruise and met a girl. She was still married. And this is, 10, 15 years later, they're married.
Right.
And her life makes sense now.
Uh-huh.
When I read a little bit about your story, it almost sounded similar in that, well, you were living your life. It's not like
Right.
you were living this big lie this whole time.
No, I was married and, and for the story of that, why don't you check out my Facebook?
There we go.
Oh, God.
Yes, where I talk at length about that. Well, I call myself a late break-in les because, I didn't realize I was gay until later in life, you know. And it happens. I mean, it just happens. I was dying to have an affair. I thought it would be an affair with a woman. I met this gal.
Just so you would know, to know what that felt like, that kind of thing? Is
was
that where you were dying?
This seems interesting to me now.
Okay.
I want to,
Something's going on.
Yeah.
Something's percolating.
Right. And I met this woman, Lori, at this Project Angel Food event. Sat across from her. She's gorgeous. And I thought, oh, this is this is who I'm going to have my, chic affair with. And we totally, just like fireworks, we fell in love. And now this is 22 years later, and we got married 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't realize that.
I didn't
When
know
you
the
said that Garry was-
duration of time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
22 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
I know, but, and I'm sure, how long have you guys been together?
8?
8 is a chunk of time.
Yeah,
when
married
you,
5 almost.
I married 5.
Yeah.
When you start to, with Harry and Meghan Markle getting married, and they were like,
Mm.
"Oh my God, we were together when we saw the sad news that Princess Diana had died and stuff like that." When
You
start
guys were
to
together.
share. Yeah.
I was moving
Whoa.
into college, and I've
Wow.
never forgotten that day. It was
remember
all over
too.
the news that
Yeah,
morning.
yeah.
And some people were like, did not care. And I was heartbroken over how it happened.
Yes.
Yes.
And
And
then
there was
especially.
that moment of like maybe she
Yeah.
went to the hospital and maybe
Yeah, we
she's
weren't sure.
living. Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
But
So-
yeah, that time.
That does happen, and it wasn't. And exactly what you said. There are people like, "Oh, you were hiding." Like, I wasn't hiding anything. It just kind of like, bam.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's exactly what it was. All right.
Yeah.
Well, your story just means so much to me. And I should mention also that
Yes.
today is their anniversary, Barb and Kelly. So you happen to be here for
Oh.
that. Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
We love you.
See
Truly.
you on the Olivia cruise.
What's that? Is that
That's gay.
Did you do stand up on a cruise ever?
Yes.
Yeah,
a
you did,
lot,
right?
Yeah.
a lot?
Yeah, I have a special that was on a cruise.
Is it available to be seen?
I don't know.
It might be on the
Things
internet?
are available from 1989. Yeah, my comedy cruise special.
Was that fun?
It was, because it got to take a whole week of a cruise and
I'm-
shoot 2 shows.
Yeah, I like cruises. I don't know why.
Oh,
Not everyone does. I'm a big fan.
yeah, I like them.
All right. The Letterman stuff. Favorite Letterman appearance or for any kind of Letterman anything that you could tie in, and then we'll let you out of here.
Okay. I think, I did the show, the NBC show, 25 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, and every time
That show was magical for me. I mean,
it
it's
was
what formed me as a
really
human.
the greatest show ever. And what I think about a lot is, every performer has their own. I get very keyed up before I perform. I mean, I go out, relax, but I get very keyed up, can't eat, that kind of stuff. But I would go out and do my thing. And then when I would go over and I would shake Dave's, and he would shake my hands were freezing from whatever thing that is in your body.
Plus, that studio was always cold.
Yeah,
And
but he would shake my hand and go, every time, like, your hands are fucking freezing. What is up with that? And we'd laugh and everything, but every time he would comment on how cold my
it's
hands
so
were.
funny.
hilarious.
And that's probably what other people always wonder. What does Dave
Yeah,
whisper
what's
into
he
someone's ear?
saying?
Johnny in the old days. What is he
Right.
whispering?
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny. Carol Leifer,
I love that.
I can't
Thank
thank you
you,
enough for being
Ryans.
here.
Thank you.
It means the world to
enjoyed
us.
It was really fun.
Thank you.
Take the show element out from a soul, I don't know, from a soul side of this whole thing. It really it means a lot to the Ryans.
Well, honestly, I watched your show and I was so touched and liked you guys from seeing you on the show. I think you have a really, obviously, great chemistry being married and a really is entertaining, interesting show. And I was like, I want to go on there.
So glad.
You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Carol Leifer. We
Thank
love you.
you.
We love you.
Big fan.
Love you back, Ryan.
This is Ryan. I love you. We love all of you out there. Let's see. What do we got tomorrow?
Richard's
Who's here?
going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, Richard Chasler is here tomorrow. Next week, we've got John Benton, Kevin Couch, and maybe Mark Summers. We'll see. His Double Dare starts next week, too.
Oh,
Same thing as you. We
Right.
did a whole thing, mentioned it, and he jumped in on
Look at
Facebook.
that.
Where is this? They're shooting
Nice.
Double
That
Dare at
works
Radford
now.
around the corner.
fantastic.
We love everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Holy cow. Ugh. Where are you off to? In
I'm
your
actually
fancy
going
dress?